In this video, we're going to discuss a stepwise method for how to go about practicing the Cassia Harvey position books 2, 3, and 4. So these are shifting books basically, and an introduction to positions 2 through 4. There's a book for each position. We're going to be starting in the 4th position book, right up here. First, what I'll do is I'm going to play through the first line of this 4th position book as I want to ultimately hear it played once it's learned, just so we can hear what we're listening to try to accomplish. Goes on to do that on every string, all 4 strings. So some of the key points here before we go into the first step of practicing. Probably the biggest key point is when does the shift take place? So we have quarter notes, we have separate bows. The shift has to take place during, if I'm playing legato, if I'm not stopping my bow, it has to take place on one note or the next note. The shift can't take place during the bow change in 1 millisecond of time. It's not possible. It's not enough time. So it has to, the key point is that it takes place on the old note or the old bow. In this situation, all the shifts take place at the end of the down bow. And then upon arrival on the E in this case, we change to an up bow. We repeat the E, the 3rd note of the 1st measure. At the end of that E, we start moving down towards B. Upon arrival, we turn our bow around. This would be opposed to a new bow shift, or a slide, as it's usually called, where the movement of the shift takes place after the change of the bow, or the bow changes during the shift. We try to eliminate these types of sounds between notes unless we are doing them on purpose for expressive reasons, and those are usually few and far between. A clean shift will almost always take place on the old bow. Now, step 1 of practicing this, we're going to practice it with a stopped bow, staccato. I shift when the bow stops. I arrive, I change the bow. There's no shift here. As soon as I'm done with the note, I shift back down to the B. I'll keep playing a few measures of this. As soon as I'm done with one note, I move to the next note, or I put my finger down, or I pick my finger up. I want to get used to preparing the next note immediately, basically after I've stopped my bow on the string, and I stop my bow on the string with a little bit of pressure, kind of gripping the string. As soon as that bow stops, I move to the next note. So both hands are ready to play. This note is repeated. As soon as I play it, though, I will be, when I'm done playing it, move back down to B. I'm going to play a little bit of that in that way. Another key point, the string needs to remain down the entire time. The 1st finger never lets the string up. So I'm really hanging on the tip of my 1st finger. My elbow is floating. I like using 4th position to introduce the concept of shifting, because it's a larger shift, but it's the same finger shift. I'm using my 1st finger. You also get kind of a freebie here, shifting into 4th position E with your first finger on the A string. Your thumb will kind of show you where your stopping point is. The heel of your hand will run into the shoulder of the cello, kind of giving you a slot, so to speak, for where that note is. You might even want to find it a few times like this. Make your best guess. There's a harmonic here if you want to check to see if you were close. Should sound the same if you're hearing this. You didn't make it. Okay, so here I am doing the stopped on the string staccato. I'm shifting between bows. Take all the time you want between notes. It's more important that you shift as soon as you're done playing than it is that you play the next note soon. I don't care if it's 2 seconds between notes, as long as you prepare quickly. There's no rush to play the next note. Okay, that's step 1. We'll do staccato. Step 2, I'm still going to do staccato, but I'm now going to move the shift earlier onto the old bow. So I will have arrived by the time my bow stops. That will look like this. So I stop my bow when I arrive. The third step to practicing this is just keeping a continual legato and turning the bow around upon arrival on the new note. We're shifting on the old bow. We're changing on the new note. And so on. A couple key points here. Try not to accelerate your bow during the shift. It's a little bit difficult. Your hands want to do the same thing. This hand moves, this hand wants to move. So what that'll produce is this sound. Highlighting the shift because I'm pulling my bow quickly during the shift. I actually want to slow my bow down during the shift to sort of hide it. I'm not stopping it, but I'm slowing it. That takes some coordination. Another way to say that is I want to pull a little bow on the beginning of the shift note so that I don't wind up doing this, yeah? If there's a bunch of bow left, you're going to feel compelled to use it. So I might think of a decelerating bow here where I pull, and then once I'm reaching, about the middle of the bow, because I'm going to turn around a little bit past the middle perhaps for a quarter note, I want to slow the bow down. And then maybe punch the next note. What that'll do is it'll bring up the volume of the notes themselves relative to the shifts. Ultimately, I'm looking for a speed of 60 to a quarter note here. It's about what I played when I first demonstrated this, yeah? But I wouldn't put the metronome on until you feel you're comfortably coordinating these shifts. Maybe I'll just play a few measures of each of these other books. We'll go backwards to third position. Keeping in step with this 60 beats per minute for a quarter note. I'll show you a few measures of this. We've got quarter notes and half notes here. we are not shifting any, well, we're shifting, but we're doing what's now called a finger substitution. We're going from playing a D with our fourth finger in the second note of this to the first finger D. So we're swapping out, but the same principles apply. I'd like to hear it in this way. Notice the distribution of my bow. I'm using half a bow for the quarter notes, di, da, whole bow for the half note, upper half for the quarter notes, and come back on the half note. So again, step one, here we have stopped on the string staccato, prepare, stopping on the string after every single note, prepare, coming back to the frog. Okay, step two, I'm going to do the shift just before I stop my bow, making sure the shift takes place on the old bow. That could have been better. There, I did that while the bow was still just moving right before I stopped. So I'm hearing a little bit of that shift, which is okay right now. Third step, the bow moves continuously. If you are accidentally working in a new bow shift in here, this is what it'll sound like. I'm still shifting on the new note. That's what we don't want. Same idea applies. The string stays down. I'm holding the string down with my first finger the whole time. You can also go over these silently, basically just using your left hand. Here I'm focusing on holding that string down. A little bit of the second position book, dealing with a B to a C sharp here. Quarter notes and half notes. And so on. Here's step one. Prepare. Here's step two. I'm shifting on the old note, but I'm still stopping my bow. Step three, I keep moving my bow legato without stopping it, shifting on the old bow still. And ultimately, we are aiming for metronome 60. That'll be our last step. We'll turn the metronome on, but not before we can play it fluidly legato. yeah, same principles apply as you continue on to the pieces. In the second position book, we're looking at Ode to Joy. In the third position book, I think an excerpt, the melody from the slow movement to Dvorak's New World Symphony. Okay, happy practicing.